you're looking to dive into topics on how to live a happier, healthier, more fit, and long lifespan, then you've come to the right podcast. Livin the Dream with me, Coach Damian Evans. Together, we will explore the topics on all things health, fitness, and wellness. Together, we will be lifelong learners on this journey to living the ultimate dream. What up, Dream Team? Coach D here, coming at you from beautiful sunny San Diego. And in today's episode, we're going to be discussing something that has helped change my life for the better, and I've been doing it for my entire adult life. We talk all the time about how the key to finding success for whatever goal that you're chasing is by finding relentless consistency. The best workout routine, the best diet, the best get-rich-quick scheme. Even if those did exist, they would only work if done consistently. A subpar plan done consistently will trump the most ideal plan done inconsistently, and that will happen every single time. So when I'm asked, what's the best fill in the blank, my usual answer is, it depends. And then I go into a bunch of questions for the person that dial in, what are your goals? What are your preferences? What have you found success with in the past? What's your support system and your environment look like? And then we try to dial in the best strategy, the quote unquote best strategy for them, specific to that individual. But really, the first answer that I should give is whatever you enjoy and do consistently will probably be the best plan for you. Because without adherence to your plan, you may as well not have a plan at all. It's the exact same thing. So this begs the question, before I can come up with a game plan, I must first figure out how to become consistent. How does a person manufacture consistency in an area that they are inconsistent? It is most likely that your goal isn't something that you're obsessed with. Your goal is probably not something that you look forward to as soon as you wake up. It's probably not something that you automatically do. Otherwise, you would probably already have obtained the goal. You wouldn't need to make it a goal because you're already doing it. Now, don't get me wrong. You may be obsessed with the results of the goal that you want, and you probably really look forward to seeing what those results are going to bring for you. But for example, those that make it a goal to work out 3 days a week, every week for a year, that's a great goal. 3 days a week, every week for a year. Those people probably don't love working out because they'd already be doing it and it wouldn't be a goal for them. They love the idea of working out 3 days a week, every week this year, and what those results will bring. So today, we're going to be discussing how you can become incredibly disciplined if you gamify your discipline. Gamify. If you make being disciplined fun rather than hard, and the more you gamify your goal, the more exciting it gets, the better results that you get, the more motivated you become, and ultimately, the longer you gamify, at least if you do it in the way that we're going to talk about today, the more data that you're going to gather. And that data you get is then like it's trying for you to beat your own score or beat your best record. If you can turn it into a game against yourself, this is the answer. You can make discipline way more fun. It's you versus you, the opponent staring back at you from the mirror. The more fun you have chasing your goals, the more likely it is that you will be consistent. And when the time inevitably comes when you fall off or you hit an obstacle, the more likely it is that you're going to get right back on track after you've fallen off. So today, we're going to help you find your success by gamifying your health, fitness, and wellness. But before we can get to the topic of the day, I want to start by thanking the sponsors of this podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Eat the Frog Fitness. Eat the Frog Fitness is the most personalized group fitness experience that you'll ever find. All Frog Squad members are assessed every 8 weeks to see and track progress. The programming is backed by science-based periodization, which means that your sessions are designed to progress your intensity over time, as well as has programmed-in recovery weeks. Check out any of the Eat the Frog Fitness locations in Southern California, and if you mention the Livin the Dream podcast, you will receive your first 2 training sessions complimentary. Another one of our sponsors is music app Brain.fm. Use Brain.fm's functional music to help you focus, relax, meditate, and sleep better. using cutting-edge neuroscience to get you the results that you're after. I personally use Brain.fm for years before I partner with them. I truly believe that in their product, and I use it anytime that I'm creating an episode for this podcast. I also listen to their deep sleep music every single night. My Oura Ring tracks the sleep data, and the difference is noticeable. So download the app on your app store and use the discount code CoachDamian_SD to try the app for a free month and a discount off of your first month if you decide to continue with your subscription. And this week's 5-star review comes from Josh T. Young. Josh T. Young says, "New listener here. Just started listening and so far super solid health information. I've been into healthy living for a while now, so some of the information isn't new to me, but as I listen, it has given me so many ideas on how I can, quote, be better with my health and fitness. Looking forward to catching up on all the episodes. Keep up the good work, Coach D." I love that. Thank you so much, Josh, for your support and kind words. If everyone else would do me a favor, if you haven't already, while you're listening to this episode, if you haven't subscribed yet, please take a second to subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you're listening to it on, which will allow you to get notifications anytime I release an episode. But it also shows more people that this podcast is worth a listen to them. Then you can scroll down and leave us a 5-star review if you feel that we've earned it. I read every single review, and I really appreciate and love the feedback. And now on to the topic of the day. I didn't fully understand the power of gamifying discipline until I got way more consistent at tracking the core health things in my life. A lot of people look at discipline like it's a willpower thing. David Goggins, man up and shut up, stay hard, or Jocko, toughen up. But when you look at discipline as if it's a willpower thing, I feel like that's the same thing as if you're working on your fitness goals by strictly only using motivation. Yes, a few people in this world can manifest some sort of motivation every single day. Some people just have that fire inside of them, that chip on their shoulder that they can access anytime they need a push. But for most of us, motivation is just an emotion. It's just like happiness, sadness, joy, anxiety, love. These emotions ebb and flow. They intensify and they diminish. Think about when you're motivated. Man, is that a beautiful feeling? If I could bottle up any emotion, motivation would be right there at the top of this list. With motivation, I feel on top of the world. I blast through any sort of obstacles in my way. I take the long way in order to get to my goal. I have energy and I have fun when I'm motivated. Then, the flip side, feeling unmotivated, it's brutal. Any sort of obstacle, it just seems like a mountain to climb, sending you into a defeated depression. You don't have the energy to do anything. You find any excuses possible to avoid whatever it is that needs to be done. Unambitious, uninterested, lethargic, unenthusiastic. That sounds like a special kind of hell to me. I say this only because if we count on motivation just to exercise, that's a battle that we are probably going to lose right away. It's the same thing if you're going to be looking at discipline as a willpower thing. Like, come on, man, just do what needs to be done. It's not that hard. Find some willpower and knock this thing out so that we can move forward. If only a little pep talk was all that we needed to willpower us through our journey to discipline. That strategy, in my opinion, just is not going to be sustainable. Instead, I found that the idea is to design a system. You have to optimize that system, perhaps maybe automate that system. And then when you have that system going, here's the key thing, you ultimately measure the results you get from that system and you gather the data that system is giving you. And that's when you end up in this state of quantified discipline, where you can actually put a number and put a measurement to the things that you know that you have to do, the habits that you would love to be more consistent at in order to get the results of a higher quality life that you're striving for when it comes to the goals that you've made for yourself. And I know that's a little vague, but I'm going to give you a bunch of examples here shortly. Here's the thing. It's like a momentum pendulum. The more you are disciplined and the more you do the things that you don't want to do consistently, it will eventually become more natural, and then it eventually flips. It goes the other way. You no longer have to force yourself to do the thing. You actually feel wrong when the thing doesn't happen. Like, oh man, I haven't worked out this week. I feel terrible. Let me plan in my schedule a workout tomorrow because I just don't feel right not having worked out this week. That's when you know that you've made it. It's a beautiful thing when you get habits to a certain level and you've found relentless consistency with those habits, and it just becomes who you are as a person. When the things you once had to force yourself to do now feel off or weird when you don't do them. The number one way I've done this personally is to quantify and gamify those tasks. The theme of this episode can be summed up in a great quote. The quote says, "What gets measured gets managed." What gets measured gets managed. Or said another way, what doesn't get measured gets neglected or ignored. Or more simply put, to measure is to know. Let me give you a real life example of what I'm talking about here. And I heard this back in May of 2022. I listened to a podcast from Rob Dyrdek. For those of you that don't know, Rob is a business guru. He's also a pro skateboarder who I started following years and years ago. He's an American entrepreneur, an actor, a producer, a reality TV personality, and he's best known for his roles in the MTV reality shows Rob and Big, Rob Dyrdek's Fantasy Factory, and of course, Ridiculousness. He does it all. He's the man. He released an episode on his podcast that's called Build with Rob, and this episode was titled Gamify Your Discipline for Optimal Results. And he first started by tracking a few core things that he wanted to do every single day. He tracked whether he did or didn't get up at 5 a.m., whether he did or didn't do some brain training exercises. Did he work out? Did he drink alcohol? Did he meditate? And did he eat clean? Fairly simple, right? And this is 100% quantitative. It's either yes or no. Did he do it or did he not do it? So he tracks, and then he gets a number. And at the end of the month, he ends up getting a percentage that he can look at on a monthly basis. How often did he do each thing? Then over time, it becomes a percentage on a yearly basis. And for him, even though he tracked all of this on a daily basis, he really didn't see anything change in his life until he started to look at his monthly numbers. And then he started to look at those numbers and he became kind of like a game for him. He says, this game was a double-edged sword because when I started tracking discipline, I didn't really know what to do with those numbers, but I was gathering data. Think about it. The first month you track something like this, you're getting data like, okay, I woke up at 5 a.m. 85% of the month. What does that tell you? It tells you that you wake up at 5 a.m. more than you don't, but it doesn't tell you a lot yet. But it does give you a slightly bigger picture on something that you didn't know about your goals. It illuminates an objective number on something that you found to be an important aspect of your success that you didn't know before. And that's a start. This is important. As he became more consistent with his tracking, which took him a whole year, by the way, because you also have to realize that you have to figure out a way to not miss a day of tracking. That's a huge factor here, right? The simple act of even tracking these core lifestyle tasks, that takes habit creation. That takes behavior change. And that is very challenging to do on your own. But once he did get consistent with tracking his data, he saw that he started off super strong in January when he made his goal, just like most of us do when we make our New Year's resolutions, right? But then he noticed as the year progressed, he was doing less and less of his core goals. February was a little worse than January. March was a little worse than February, and so on. And then he hit an all-time low in October. And he asked himself, like, dude, what are you doing? You have these goals and you are objectively failing right in front of your eyes. You have these numbers. And this is where that double-edged sword that he talked about comes in, because in November, he flipped the switch and he said, these numbers are unacceptable. And he started January with an average of 90% compliance with all those goals, and it dwindled all the way down to 50% compliance. That's unacceptable. And he went back in November and got his compliance up to 95%. Highest score. Boom. What does that mean? High score. Did I break it? Once he started to create this game with himself, now it was him versus him, beating his score from his last month. But without tracking his data, he never would have had these objective numbers to put his lifestyle choices into perspective. He also would have not known how slowly he was just falling behind. He would know, well, yeah, I'm not really doing these things as much as I did in January, but it can't be that bad, right? But with those objective numbers staring at him in his face, those objective numbers that are truly something he believes in because he was the one that was collecting the data, those numbers were such strong evidence to actually create real lifestyle behavior changes for him. That's just super powerful. So as he started turning his monthly numbers around, he soon started to get a yearly picture, and he began tracking more things. Not only did he track if he got up at 5 a.m., if he did brain training, if he worked out, if he drank alcohol, meditated, if he ate clean, but then at the end of each month, he gave himself a score of 1 to 10 on how he felt his life was going. He started to correlate that the months that he got his best scores were oddly the same months that he rated the quality of his life the highest. He was creating objective feedback on the quality of his life based on his core lifestyle habit scores. Incredible. When I heard him talk about this, my creative juices just started flowing. I started to think, okay, how can I implement this strategy into my own life? I mean, I've tracked my sleep on my Oura Ring for years before this. I've tracked my life through a journal for 3 straight years, not missing a day. But I hadn't put all of that data that I was collecting in an objective format that I could look at in one glance and see better or worse or needs improvement or crushing it. I didn't have the data I was collecting in an organized fashion to where I could do something with that data. So as you listen to this episode, your goal should be to hear the strategies that have been used by others like Rob and myself to try to get creative on how you can implement this into your life. Remember that in order for you to get this to work, you can't start with 100 things. You shouldn't start with 100 things. You have to start slow. You have to start small. Pick 1 to 3 things. Track it for a while in a medium that makes sense for you. Every person is different. Rob used his calendar to track. For me, I decided that Excel spreadsheet was the way that I wanted to track. So I want to tell you my story from the day that I listened to that episode back in May of 2022 to present day. As soon as I listened to that episode, I asked myself, what are the things that I want to track in my life? And I started small. So what did I do? I opened up a blank Excel spreadsheet. And in the left column, I wrote 5 things. I wrote red light therapy with my Juve. I wrote meditate. I wrote train as in exercise, but training and exercising are 2 different things. I wrote train. And then I wrote get uncomfortable. Because every day I want to get uncomfortable. I want to do something that gets me uncomfortable because I know how valuable that is. And then the last thing that I wrote was journal, which I already had down for the last 3 years. So that was going to be an easy one for me. That was pretty much automatic. And that was it. Then for the next 31 columns, I put the day of the month, the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, all the way up to the 31st. And after I did that, I put a monthly total count. I decided that I would put a 1, and a 1 would signify if I did that task or not, and a 0 would show that I didn't do it that day. And then as I went, I just totaled up the days and I got a monthly total. Super simple, right? Anyone who plays around with Excel for a minute or 2 can figure out how to do that. The first part was done. I picked the categories that I wanted to track, and then I picked how I was going to track it. Boom. Now, for the challenging part, how was I going to make marking everything down every single day a habit? This is a new thing to my lifestyle. This is something that I've never done before. So even if it is as simple as putting a 1 or a 0 for 5 items, it doesn't matter if it's simple if I don't take the time to actually sit down and actually consistently fill out this tracker. And it wasn't pretty at first. I will be honest with you. I didn't do it a lot. I would forget to fill it out, and then I would have to come back after a week of not filling it out, and I would have to try to remember if I did this thing or did I do that thing. Luckily, I had already made it a habit to journal every day. So what I did was I would go back and I would look at my journal, and then I would go into the Excel spreadsheet and fill out a week at a time on this spreadsheet. But at times I was guessing. And you know what that means? If I was guessing, that means that my data wasn't as accurate as it could be. But I did kind of start to get this blurry picture of what was happening. So I had to tighten up. I had to figure it out. What is something that I do every single day that I could stack filling out my spreadsheet with? And I knew I already had a habit of sitting down and doing red light therapy, which I also meditated during this time. So I was just stacking and stacking and stacking my tasks on top of each other. So I sat down to do red light therapy, which I had made a habit every day. And I knew I was going to be sitting there for at least 20 minutes. Most of that was meditating. So I brought my computer in, and I immediately, after I finished the red light therapy and meditating, I opened up the spreadsheet and I put a 1 for Juve and I put a 1 for meditate. Boom. That helped me stay consistent with at least checking off those 2 things every day. I had also made it a goal and a habit to journal at the end of every night. So when I journaled, I brought my computer out again. I checked off the other 3 items: journaling, getting uncomfortable, hopefully I did that, and training if I did or did not train that day. If I were to miss juving earlier in the day, which means I would probably miss my morning spreadsheet checkoff and my meditation, then I could make up for it when I journaled at night. I had a built-in fallback plan. Things were coming together nicely. I felt like I was on a roll and I was finding consistency. This boosted my daily spreadsheet consistency to over 90% of the time checking it off. And within a couple of weeks, it was a part of my lifestyle. I haven't stopped yet. So once it got automatic, I started to think, okay, this is it. I got it down. How can I grow this thing? What can I add to this? I don't want to do too much too fast because then it becomes a chore, and I don't want to do too much because then I won't look forward to it and it becomes really something that I dread doing. But I want to make sure that I continue just to kind of chip away and build at this product, this project. So the next addition to this spreadsheet was I broke down my training styles. Instead of asking just the simple question, did I train, yes or no, I wanted to track what style of training I was doing. And I did this because I knew I was neglecting my power training and my endurance training. I just love lifting, which the style that I love is called hypertrophy training, which hypertrophy simply means muscle growth. And I know you can't really tell by looking at me, but I pretty much live in this style of training. Hashtag do you even lift, bro? But the beautiful thing about Excel that I like over something like a calendar or a piece of paper in a notebook is that with Excel, you can easily add rows, delete rows, you can copy and paste. And when you get really fancy, you can actually input equations that give you totals or averages or sums or percentages and stuff like that. But I followed my own advice and I said, keep it simple, Damien. I subdivided training into 5 different categories: hypertrophy, power, endurance, mobility, and active recovery. And then after a month, I got a super clear picture of what my training strengths were and what my growth opportunities were. As the months went by, I just copied each previous month and I made a whole new tab for the upcoming month, and I erased all the old data in the new tab to make a brand new month. And I just kept the data from the previous months, which then started to compound. And I had May, June, July, August, September. I started in May of 2022 with 5 things, and I am now finishing up the year, and my spreadsheet is an absolute beast. I am so proud of this thing. I want to take some time here to read you all the things that I'm tracking right now, and I do this to maybe give you some ideas for yourself. I also do this at risk of being boring if you don't care about this kind of stuff, but I really think that this could be helpful. I mean, I wish that someone had done this for me when I first started this. However, it's super important for me to stress at how slow I started. I'm going to read to you a bunch of stuff, but how I found a way to be consistent with filling out this spreadsheet over 90% of the time, I did it by starting small before I started adding to it. Before I started to track more things, because it doesn't matter how amazing your tracker is if you don't fill it out. It literally becomes useless. It becomes inaccurate data if you don't input correctly and consistently into this thing. Seriously, this is the most important part. Maybe you have to start with just one thing, and maybe you check it off when you're brushing your teeth at night. But honestly, none of this will work if you don't figure out a way to make it a habit of checking it off and tracking it in your life, which is going to be hard. The most challenging part for most of us will be the lifestyle behavior change of tracking, which is ironically even harder than doing the actual thing that you want to track, but it compounds. You can add to it and it's going to become super powerful, I promise you. The spreadsheet that I made is called Livin My Best Life. Here's what it looks like, and here's where I'm currently at. So in the far left column, I have the categories, and the categories are daily tasks, training, movement juice, self-care, sleep routine, and superfoods. To the right, in the next column, I have all the subdivisions of each category. So I have things like in my daily tasks, I have my grip strength. I want to track my grip strength because grip strength is a huge indicator of your health. Not only does it indicate how long you will live, the stronger your grip strength, the longer you will live, just based on strength alone and independence. But also, if you track your grip strength and you see that it suddenly tanks, you know that you might be at a case of overtraining or you might be getting close to being sick. So it's a really good indicator that something's not right when you have your average grip strength measured and then you see it tank. So I track that every day. I track if I drank my coffee that morning because with the coffee, I always take some supplements and that's a great way to see if I'm there consistently. I track if I juve, I meditate. I track if I create something that day because I think it's super important. All day, it seems like we're consuming social media, consuming news. We're just consuming machines. Is there something that you can put out into the world that day? Did I create a podcast episode? Did I create social media content that can help the members at the gym? Did I create something that can help build towards my goals? I track if I did skills that day. So for me, shooting basketball is a great way to get my hand-eye coordination, to practice a skill, to also do some moving meditation and get my movement in. So things like skill work is important to me. I track if I trained, but that's coming up later. I also have Jello that I create, and it's a actually great joint supplement Jello that I probably need to do an episode on, but it has a bunch of good stuff in there for joint health. And I've always had these joints that really bothered me because I didn't strengthen them. I didn't mobilize them. I also didn't eat properly. So this Jello is a great way for me to work on my joint health. I track how many times a day I take that. I rebound, little mini trampoline. I'm telling you guys, rebounding is one of the best ways to help your lymphatic drainage, which is your waste management system. I would recommend getting a mini trampoline rebounder to every single person listening to this, to all of my clients. It's a great way to get flow. It's a great way to get activity, movement into your day. It's a great way to work on the fast twitch muscle fibers that we lose as we age. It's a great warm up for exercising. I just love it. It's a great way to take a break throughout your sedentary day. If you're sitting at your desk for an hour, get on that thing for a minute and just bounce up and down. Low impact. It's just really good. I track if I got uncomfortable. Did I get hot or cold? Because I really want to train my thermoregulation system in my body. So things like sauna, you could do hot tubs, you could go and you could do get hot by exercising, get cold, cryotherapy. You could do a cold plunge in the ocean, stuff like that. I track if I did gratitude that day, if I felt and expressed gratitude for my life, for someone else. Gratitude, super important. Journal, I track if I journal or not, and I do that in my phone. And then I actually track if I check off my spreadsheet or not. That's right. I put checking off spreadsheet in my spreadsheet. Really dorky. I know. Okay, so the next category was train, and I already told you about that. I broke it up into 5 different categories: hypertrophy, speed, power, mobility, active recovery, that kind of thing. Next was movement juice. I think mobility and moving your body is so important. I see these videos of these 80-year-olds, these 90-year-olds that have worked on their mobility their entire life, and they're doing movements like a 40 or a 50-year-old. And then I see 80, 90-year-olds that didn't invest in their mobility, and they're almost done. They're in wheelchairs. They need people to take care of them. That is the scariest thing to me in my life. So I want to make sure that every day I hit each of my joints. So I broke down movement juice into categories: ankles, hips, feet, my lower back, lumbar, my mid back, my thoracic, shoulders, wrists, neck, IT and knee area. I track if I dead hang or not, because being able to hang from something with your own strength, holding up your own body weight, is so important. And then I track if I do 100 push-ups every day. I think doing push-ups is a great way to keep your overall upper body strength and your core strength where it needs to be. So that's called movement juice. Next category is self-care. I want to see how many days a month I do self-myofascial release, massage. I want to know how often do I do yin yoga, which is a great way to help cool down from the day, down-regulate your system, and get ready for sleep. Yin, Y-I-N yoga, I do it every single night. Right now, I'm at 99% for the current month. Right before bed, it's a great way to do it. Sauna, self-care, hot tub, self-care. Those are my 2 ways to get hot that it just is one of my best ways to work on stress management. Beach walk. Do I do a beach walk? Stretch, or swim in the ocean or swim in the pool. Those are ways that I feel that are ways for me to work on my self-care. Next category is sleep routine. And with the sleep routine, I track, did I try to learn something that night? Instead of watching Bachelor or some sort of cooking show or anything on Netflix, did I look at something? Did I listen to something that I could learn from that day? Did I drink my nighttime tincture, which is usually mellow magnesium from the company Ned? Super important to be able to go into the night drinking something that can help give you better sleep. And that I use Ned Mellow for that. Did I prep for the next day? Did I meditate? And did I do Yoga Nidra or Brain.fm? I listen to Brain.fm every night before I go to bed, so I'm at 100% right now on that one. And then the last category that I track is superfoods. Did I eat blueberries that day? Did I eat kiwis that day? And did I have dark chocolate that day? 100%. Let's go. So that's what my current December tab looks like. But I have from December all the way back to May of 2022. And then my first tab on this spreadsheet is actually a yearly overview. So I copy and pasted all of those things and I put it into a yearly overview. And after each month is completed, I put the total amount of times I did it along with the percentage of that month in the yearly total. Here's what I did next. After I did that for a couple of months, I was like, okay, this is good, but this doesn't really give me a picture of how I'm doing. So I did a plus minus category beside each column. And what happens is now, let's say in December, I did red light therapy 28 times. And then last month, I only did it 20 times. I have in the plus minus category that I increased my percentage by 15% or whatever that is. And I actually highlight it in green. So my yearly totals have a green or a red column that gives me a visual of how did I progress from last month? Did I get better? Did I get worse? And then I can look at the whole yearly overview and see this beautiful, colorful overview that gives me a picture right at a glance at how I'm doing. So that's my Livin the Dream spreadsheet. And it's super complex when I explain it, but if you just take it step by step, it's really not that bad. It was just adding on to what I was currently doing and kept adding on different categories. And I know it's a lot, and I don't want you to take away from this that you have to be doing all of that. I really hope that this maybe just gives you some creative ideas for things that will help you live your dream life. But maybe spreadsheets are not for you. I totally get it. I can't think of many things that are really nerdier than Excel spreadsheets. And for those of you that don't know me, I use the words nerdy and weird as a compliment. But let's talk about another way that I gamify my life. I'm also gamifying my training. So tell me that if this has ever happened to you. Have you ever gone to the gym, not like a group fitness program, but like a big box gym? Have you ever gotten to the gym and you're just not sure what you were going to do? So what do? You hop on a piece of cardio equipment and you take some time to think about it while you warm up. And you're warmed up and you look at the free weights or you look at the machines and there's just maybe way too many people. Or maybe you don't feel the motivation. Or maybe you just couldn't decide what you want to do. Do not feel like a failure if this ever happens to you. Listen, fitness is my life. I live and breathe fitness. One of my favorite things to do is to program workouts. My brain operates by breaking down the nuances of every exercise and understanding where to put it in the workout based on goals, ability levels, even availability of fitness equipment, and other countless variables. It's my jam. But still, I have felt the same way as I just described. Motivation, it's a miracle drug when you have it. Enjoy it when you have it, but it is a biatch when you don't have it. Lack of motivation is an emotion. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. Not to diminish the feelings of those that have these emotions, but I honestly sometimes compare the feeling of lack of motivation to things like sadness or grief or depression. Lack of motivation and all of those things, they're not fun. So I felt that walking into the gym and being like, ugh, I don't want to be here. Why am I here? I don't want to do any of this. I'm wasting my time. And it sucks big time. But if you've ever felt this, I promise you, you're only 10 minutes away from doing a complete 180 turn. Here's how you do it. Before you ever get into your car, you have to make a game plan. Maybe it's the night before, or maybe it's a little closer to the workout, but before you ever get in the car to drive to the gym, or before you ever step foot in the gym, here's what you need to do. Okay, so on your phone or in a notebook, figure out a way to get a list. And then, this is important, you need to be able to mark each list item as done. And if you can't figure out what that is, there are countless shopping list apps. I use the iPhone Notes app, and I create a list with the bubble bullet points that you can actually touch, and it'll check off that bubble. So if you're using a notebook and you're actually writing it down, it's super simple to add this, but you need some way to list out what you're going to be doing in the gym, and then it's important that you can actually check it off and mark it as completed. Then you have to pick what exercise you're going to be doing. And if you're not a programmer, this is kind of tough, but there are tons of options. You can go onto Pinterest or onto Instagram and get any kind of basic workouts. Now, these are not going to be super effective long-term, but they get the job done, right? If you just need a workout that day, you can search it. You can get workout plans from experts, which is what I highly recommend. If you follow the podcast group Mind Pump, they have a bunch of super solid programs. They call their programs MAPS programs. If you go to mindpump.com and look at their starter bundle or their anabolic bundle, that's an amazing place to start. You can follow people like Mike Mincer or Mike Matthews or Ben Pekulski, or even like Sean T from Insanity. There are so many great programmers out there. Just do some research on the style that you're looking for and find out who's doing it the best. And if you just can't figure out or you don't know how, message me and we can talk about the best route to go. I'd be happy to help you. Even if you just write down 5 exercises that you know: squats, push-ups, lunges, sit-ups, overhead press, boom. Obviously, an expert is going to have a program that will get you better results than a novice or a beginner just throwing out exercises, but that's not the point of this episode. Just pick a few exercises. Now, you need to decide ahead of time how many sets or rounds that you're going to be doing, how many reps in a range, like 10 to 15 or 8 to 12. Don't pick just one number, because a real set should have a range, because you don't know how you're feeling that day and you don't know exactly when you're going to be failing with that set. So pick a range. And if you don't know what range, 10 to 15 is a really good range to start with. Then lastly, you need to decide how long you're going to rest. And this is important. If you're going heavy, you need to rest longer. If you're going lighter, you probably should rest a little less, for most people's goals at least. And if you don't know how long to rest, just pick 60 to 90 seconds. That's a solid rest period for most people to start with. Okay, so now we have 5 exercises written down. on a list that you can check off. You have how many reps in a range that you're going to do, and you have how many times you're going to be doing each exercise along with the rest that comes after it. Now, the goal is to avoid the situation that we talked about, right? When we go to the gym without any motivation and we just avoid wasting our time or not even getting anything done and leaving without doing anything. That's terrible. You're going to gamify this by treating it like a to-do list, which the human brain is so good at checking off. But you're also going to add in this domino effect. When this happens, I do this. And when this happens, I do this. And after that, this happens. Here's what I do. And this will make more sense when I put it into an example. I open up the app that I'm using to list and track the exercises. And then I also open up on my phone an alarm or a stopwatch. Every smartphone has this, a stopwatch. I look at the first exercise on my list and I knock it out. Once that exercise is done, once my set is done, I mark off on the app that I did it. I make a check, and then I immediately start the alarm for whatever rest period that it was, 90 seconds, 60, 90 seconds, whatever, 2 minutes. Then during the rest, I do whatever I want. Maybe I look around, maybe I breathe, maybe I drink water, maybe I scroll on social media. But as soon as that alarm goes off, I go to the next item on that list, no exceptions, and I automatically pause what I was doing and I rep out the next exercise. I check it off, I reset the alarm over and over and over until I'm like Pavlov's dog. And when the alarm goes off, my brain releases chemicals that says, let's go. There is absolutely no thinking required because I have my list. I have my cues, when I start, when I stop, and then it's just a game of dominoes, slowly checking off the list. This can sometimes become a double-edged sword though, because I'm a little obsessive when it comes to stuff like this and having to finish my to-do list. So sometimes I should probably stop early based on how my body is feeling, but I still have 2 exercises left. So very often I'll do those 2 exercises when I shouldn't have, just to prove to myself that I can finish what I initially intended to do on my list. And yeah, well, this strategy works really well for people that struggle with motivation. If you're feeling that terrible feeling of lack of motivation, this is a great solution to get you moving, to get you started. And to steal a term from Professor Andrew Huberman from Stanford, to really take away the limbic friction that is the excess energy your brain is asked to use when trying to overcome lack of motivation. Limbic friction, you want to overcome that. This strategy makes it more automatic. But the whole point is your body is an energy conservation machine. Your body evolved to conserve energy as a survival mechanism. So the act of getting your workout started is actually an act that is fighting your physiology. We evolved to conserve energy because food was hard to come by, energy was hard to come by, and we didn't have that excess storage. Why would we waste it on exercise that doesn't involve mating or feeding or fighting? We're living in a different time now. But that only occurred very recently on the human timeline. Our bodies are still built like those humans who struggled to find food back in the day. But even with us fighting our physiology, the beautiful thing about our body as well, your body as well, is that it's able to shift into a fight or flight mode. That's where you want to be for exercise, fight or flight mode. And it does this fairly easily and quickly. All you have to do is just get started. After a warm-up, after a couple of exercises, your body's going to be releasing hormones, chemicals, electrical signals, which compound on each other. And before you know it, you're over here crushing your workout and benefiting from those feel-good endorphins flowing through your body and leaving the gym so glad that you showed up for yourself. Now, it's important to note that the way that everyone's brain operates is different. We all have different mindsets. We all have different motivators. And we all have different personality traits that make us who we are. In some scenarios, having a mindset of, I'm going to do what I set out to do, can be very helpful. And in other scenarios, it could be detrimental to your goals. Some people are super strict with following through, and others are a little bit more lenient and free-flowing. So you have to be honest with yourself and know the strategies to use to manipulate this strategy to best match your specific, individualized personality. Maybe you need to add some sort of reward or some sort of, punishment. Punishment seems like too harsh of a word to use in this situation, but you know kind of what I'm saying here. Once you find your unique strategy that works best for you, maybe you can start to add on a tracker to the equation, maybe in a spreadsheet form like I do or a calendar like Rob does, to track how successful you are at completing your workouts. Maybe you give yourself a score from 1 to 10, or track how many days of the month that you did this. Quantify it so you have tangible data to look at the end of the month, at the end of the year, that you can then compete with yourself to try to do better every month. I posted about this the other day, but I did this with a spreadsheet called Training My Best Life. And I wanted to walk you through this one as well. Maybe give you an idea or two for helping you incorporate something like this into your training life. So this is a breakdown of my Training My Best Life spreadsheet. So as I open it up here, I have a bunch of tabs at the bottom, and I just started doing this in November. So I made November, December, January, February, so on and so forth. And in each tab, I have all the muscle groups that I want to train. I have chest, I have triceps, I have back, I have biceps, I have legs, and I have shoulders, and they're all color coordinated. And in each column, let's take chest here, for example, I have the date that I trained, and then I have the exercises that I did. I have dumbbell incline press, dumbbell flat press, and physio ball fly. Next to each exercise, I have the weight that I used and the reps that I did. Now, when it comes to training, you want to track your volume. You want to track how much volume you do if you're trying to progress that volume over time. When you progress the volume over time, you then know that you're getting stronger and you're going to be building muscle mass or toning your muscles or whatever the goal is. We can start to quantify that with the volume that you train with. So how do you get volume? You take the weight that you did with that exercise and you multiply it by the reps. So if I did 60 pounds and I did it 20 reps, then I multiply those two together and I get 1,200 pounds of volume. So that's my total volume for that set that I did. And now I do that with every exercise that I did that day. I times the reps by the weight and I get a volume. And now in this next column, I have a daily total for my entire workout. How much volume did I do for my chest? And to the very left, I have this master table, and it'll tell me how many total sets I did of chest, how much total volume I did of chest, and how many days this month did I train. And I did that with some equations, so it's a little bit more complex on this spreadsheet than my Livin the Best Life spreadsheet, but it's just a simple Excel equation here that you can figure out through some YouTube videos or whatever. It's pretty simple. Anyway, I do that for all of the muscle groups. And at the end of the month, I can see, let's go back to November, I can see that I did 55 sets of chest and triceps. I did 62 sets of back and biceps, and I did 70 sets of legs and shoulders. Yes. So for me, I know that I need to train my back and my legs more than my chest, because when I was younger, I did only chest. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed to say that. I did only chest, calves, and abs because those were the money makers. I wanted a big chest, so I did push-ups and bench press all the time. I did abs, of course, because what 16 to 20-year-old doesn't want six-pack abs? And I did calves because I was a basketball player and I wanted to jump really high and I wanted to dunk. I actually even wore those dunk shoes around my high school in the hallways, just walking around. Yeah, I was such a dork. Oh, but it worked. So who's to say dorkiness isn't a good thing? Anyway, so I can also see the total volume. And I know that I want to work my back and my legs more than my chest. I know that I want to have more leg volume because those are bigger muscle groups. So I have this quantifiable data sitting in front of my face showing me that I hit my goals. Now, as I move into December, I now have a total volume of each muscle group that I know that I need to beat or I need to increase in order to keep progressing. If I do less volume in December than November, I know that won't be progressive overload. So I take the November spreadsheet when I'm finished, I copy, paste, create a new tab and paste it into the December tab. And then I just erase all of the data from November and it's a clean slate. And now when I get really into this thing, months and months from now, I'm going to have a yearly overview where I can go to a yearly overview tab and I can look and see all throughout the last year what my big overview picture looks like with each muscle group. Now remember, this is next level stuff. My journey through fitness started when I was 15 years old. That's 2 decades ago. I consider myself extremely advanced compared to the average person, while also understanding that I know nothing compared to the actual experts. So to be clear, these breakdowns are not for you to copy exactly. They are to give you ideas on how you can implement them into your routine to best fit your style, your goals, your personality, and match the way that you like to do things. And hopefully, give the person that has no idea where to start at least some creative fuel to get started. And if you're interested, I can definitely email you a blank template of where I'm currently at and what I'm currently doing. My eventual plan is to start really making these spreadsheets professionally polished and then maybe selling them with a program to help the average person. But for now, if you want to see exactly what I've been talking about, send me a DM with your email and I'll be happy to send you a copy of what I have. But before we wrap up here, I really want to highlight that what we've discussed so far are just a couple of ways to gamify your fitness out of the infinite ways that you can gamify your fitness. One of the most simple things that I've seen work extremely effectively with the people that are walking in and out of our gym and that I've seen online or talked to in my personal life is how the iWatch, is that how you say it? iWatch, Apple Watch? I don't know. How the iWatch did such a good job at motivating people to move through their strategy of closing their rings. Man, I've seen people who could care less about fitness, who could care less about their health, walking around the living room trying to get enough steps to close their last ring. Think about that right now. It wasn't for health, it wasn't for fitness, but this human, because of the way that the human brain loves closing loops, they were doing something for their health and fitness just because of gamification. The byproduct for this person was that, yes, they felt accomplished and successful for earning a closed ring, but also they increased their daily movement, their NEAT, their non-exercise activity, and they started to minimize their sedentary behavior. Health was a byproduct of gamifying lack of movement. Well done, Apple. Well done. Ever since I saw how people react to closing rings, I have been trying to rack my brain and think of a way to do this the same way with working out at our gym. I think it's really the answer to helping the 80% plus of people in the US that don't have a gym membership and don't want a gym membership, but still help those people move. But one huge important factor that I'm only going to briefly touch on here when it comes to gamifying fitness, even though it probably deserves its own episode, is how the rings being closed, you can also bring in your social network and how your social network can amplify every single one of these ideas that we've talked about to the next level. People that don't care about fitness, who want to close their rings, they don't do this because of just closing the rings. They do it because they had their watch connected to their mom's watch or their coworker's watch, and they could see that person's status on whether they were closing their rings. Now they added a social component to it, where now I'm not just competing with myself, I'm now comparing my efforts to others. And over here at Scripps Eat the Frog, we have two amazing people. Two of my coworkers, shout out to Lisa and Dalton. Lisa and Dalton, two of my favorite people. But I come in one day and Dalton says, I usually take this day off, but I have to beat Lisa. We're in a competition. And I'm like, what competition? He flashes me his iWatch and he says, I'm supposed to burn this many calories today or else Lisa is going to beat me in this daily competition. So I pried a little bit more and I asked, so you both have to burn a certain amount of calories to win or what is this? You have to beat each other? And he said, okay, so we each set our own personal goal for ourselves, but then the watch gives them a percentage based on how well they did. And that score was an equalizer. So if Lisa's goal was to burn, let's say 1,000 calories and Dalton's goal was to burn 1,500 calories, but they both got 1,000, Lisa would win because she got 100% of her goal, whereas Dalton only got 2/3 of his goal. And I thought that was so cool how they used each other to help motivate and have a little fun competition with each other to help each other reach some goals that they had set for themselves. And while I don't know how much I agree with making calories the measuring factor, the point is a social network of like-minded, goal-chasing people can be a turbo booster to any gamification idea that you can think of. You may have, let's say, a tracker at work where all of your coworkers can see the things that each person is tracking and how well that they are adhering and accomplishing that goal. How much more dialed in would you be if you knew that all of the people that you were working with could see how well or not well your journey is going? They could celebrate you. They could give you advice or encouragement if you're falling off. They could motivate you with some friendly competition. It's literally human nature. So powerful. And if you listen to our 4 series episodes on total wellness, as with our total wellness pillars, it seems community and relationships may be the solid foundation from which everything is built. So let's put a pin in the social aspect of this for now. I think this topic deserves to be broken down and explored much deeper in another episode in the future. Let's move on. Another huge way that I've seen apps gamify health and fitness, like apps on your phone or your computer, is with streaks and badges. Streaks and badges. I know for me, when I was starting my meditation habits, I purchased a meditation headband from the company Muse, M-U-S-E. And this headband measures brainwave activity. And I love what the team at Muse is doing. Yes, I know that if there are any meditation experts listening to this right now, they're absolutely cringing. But hear me out. I know if I talk to a monk about using an app to meditate, they would laugh me out of the room. But here's what I did. This headband would play a relaxing sound, but that would play that sound louder the more that my mind wandered. The more that this brainwave state would go, it would play a louder sound. And then it would go a little bit quieter when I was getting closer to theta brainwave state, which is where you want to be. Theta brainwave states are often associated with deep states of meditation, peak spiritual experiences, and higher states of consciousness, theta. But before that, how the heck would I know what theta brainwave states felt like? So I started to get this audio feedback, and then it was like a game of hot and cold, hot and cold. That game then started to get me closer to understanding how to do it, how to feel it on my own. Then here's where the gamification started to get me hooked. They gave me a score, and they gave me a score of how many minutes that I spent in an active state of mind, how many minutes I spent in a neutral state of mind, and how many minutes I spent in a calm state of mind. Oh man, here's where my inner athlete came out. I only got 30% calm my first time. Oh hell no, I can beat that. And then I did. And then I got better and better, and now it's a game. Oh, and to add on to the fact that they're now tracking how many days in a row did I do it. Now I have to adjust my days, and I have to tell my friends when they want to go out, I have to say, I got to go home after work to get some, quote, chores done so that I don't lose my 14-day streak that I have going. Oh, and on top of that, they give me badges to hit. If I meditate for the same time 3 days in a row, I earn this badge. The next badge, I have to find 10 minutes of calm in a single session. And then I have to hit 200 hours of total meditation time. And boom, I am hooked. It's like a game of Pokemon for a 12-year-old. They got me. But what was the byproduct from them helping me gamify meditation? Well, now when I go to the beach, I've meditated so many times with this headband, and I know what it feels like to get into that theta state. And out there in nature on the beach, I can do it by myself. No headband. I'm actually a meditator. What? I just think that is so cool. I find extreme satisfaction, and I'm going to say even pride at the steps that I've taken to create a better life for myself when it comes to that goal. I set a goal, a really challenging goal. And if you know me, you know how hard it is for me to sit still for any amount of time. You know how hard it is for me to control my monkey mind. I'm always going 100 miles an hour. Hashtag no chill. So my point with all of this is that there are great apps out there that know how to create lifestyle changes and make it a game. They know how to tap into the human brain. There are great apps like Muse and Apple's fitness rings, but they're are also not so good addictive apps. Like I used to play Clash of Clans, which was a total time suck. Or I know the kids these days are playing Fortnite. And these apps and these games do the same thing. It's up to us to understand that these are just tools that we can use. Now, you can use these tools to help you achieve your goals, or these tools can use you. It's your choice. It's the same way that I think about social media. Social media isn't run by some corrupt person who says, I want to put all the nasty things into your life. No, social media uses an algorithm that when you engage with certain topics, whether good engagement or bad engagement, like commenting or liking or spending more time, whatever you engage with, it shows you more of it. So when you watch or you linger on a certain type of post, it shows you more of it. The problem with this is it's our human tendency to be fearful, to have scare tactics, to use the amygdala part of our brain to think that something's out there going to hurt us, and we need to know about that and educate ourselves about that so we spend more time watching the bad stuff. But you can be a curator of your own online life in such a great way. You could do it in a harmful way or a good way. That's why I am so very particular with what I click on, what I like, what I watch, what I linger on. I make sure that I block everything. I literally block what doesn't make me feel good, that doesn't help me with my goals, things that don't make me want to be a better person. My newsfeed is literally just fitness, health, dogs, and food. That's it. Sometimes there's an occasional motivational page that'll pop up there as well. But you know what I don't see? Political stuff. I have no idea what's going on. Fights, wars, the Liver King. All that crap is blocked, banned. It essentially does not exist in my social media world. I have curated over the years what I want to see. I know we're getting a little off topic here, but for my Instagram, I actually save posts and I have little folders in each section of things that help me become a better fitness professional. So I follow a bunch of PT pages, and I have members that ask me about injuries all the time. So I have posts that save how to strengthen your shoulders, how to strengthen your knees, how to help with back pain. And I can literally use my Instagram as a way to help my clients by, instead of showing them in time with my body when I don't have time, I can send them content for them to do at home. Yes, I realize that there's going to be bad stuff out there, but there's twice as much of good stuff out on the internet. I promise you. So use your apps the same way. Hack into your brain's tendency and use it in your favor. Awareness is key. Understanding yourself is key. And understanding how your mind works is key in this process. And to conclude this episode, I want to make some recommendations. The biggest factor towards gamifying your health, fitness, and wellness will be figuring out how to make your behavior changes and tracking stick. Remember, that's the most important part. Tracking doesn't work if it's not consistent. So a couple of books that you can read to help you with this are Atomic Habits by James Clear, Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg, and The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Atomic Habits by James Clear, Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg, and The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And we've done an episode here on the Livin the Drema podcast on how to make exercise a habit, which I'm going to include all this information, and you can find the links to what I'm talking about here in the description of this episode. So the real thing is have fun. Have fun out there, guys. This can be a frustrating pursuit of defeat after defeat, or it could be a challenge that you pursue and learn from and grow from. Learn about yourself. Learn about your human mind. Empower by educating yourself. Read, listen to the experts, and then trial and error with your lifestyle behaviors and figure out what works, what doesn't work, and what sticks for you. It should be a never-ending process of pursuit and growth until the day that you are not here anymore. I'm here if you need to bounce any ideas off someone, or I'm here if you need to just vent about your failures or celebrate your successes. Never hesitate to reach out. I'm always here for you. And that's it, my friends, for this week's episode. Each week, we're going to focus on something new and share information that will help you with your health, fitness, and wellness journey. Share the knowledge that you gained today with your friends and family and hold each other accountable. If you enjoyed this content, it helps a ton if you could post on your social media stories a screenshot of this episode with one takeaway that you may have learned, and make sure that you tag me and share your journey. Tag me at Livin the Drema_podcast or at Coach Damien_SD, and let us know how this episode benefited you. Let us know what we missed. Let us know what we got wrong. Tell us how you were able to gamify your health, fitness, and wellness. I know we only scratched the surface here with a few examples today. The possibilities that are out there are endless. Message us if you have any suggestions or tips that would help your Livin the Dream team that I can discuss on future episodes, and I will be right here with you, working on making us stronger, happier, and healthier humans. Until next time, friends, keep living the dream.